Bitcoin gave me a second chance because my money does not have to belong to a centralized bank. I can exit the currency monetary system and take control of my financial independence. And I can do more with DeFi.
Bitcoin is allowing people to have freedom through decentralization and permissionless financial policy. Before Bitcoin, we as a people were enslaved to a financial system owned by a few of the rich and powerful.
Bitcoin is not a get-rich-quick scheme. You might experience an extreme sense of volatility. Bitcoin should not be used if you do not have any patience. Do not buy Bitcoin if you have a history of being a little bitch and a history of not making any money. If you have a history of blaming others for your personal problems, we don't recommend buying Bitcoin.
If you have trouble sleeping, an addiction to watching your portfolio numbers, or an unhealthy gambling problem, we suggest that you call your financial advisor right away. Common side effects may include decreased appetite, nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, asking your mom for more money, and losing 70% of all your net worth in a month.
It's a joke, but there needs to be a disclaimer somewhere. Honestly, man, people are just hyping up cryptocurrency like it's, a walk in the park, but people's lives are being ruined. Somebody has to display the side effects somewhere, right? But on a serious note, once you understand the risks involved with cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, it's easy. Well, not easy, but it's easier than other places to actually make money. If you focus on the long term, not guaranteed, but there's a high likelihood that you'll make money in comparison to just focusing on the short-term price volatility, guys. It will leave you sleepless. Like, there's definitely a side effect of cryptocurrency of you not being able to sleep because of the volatility, especially if you put too much money that you're not willing to lose. Now, obviously, I've said, hundreds of times, you never want to invest something in a risk asset as risky as cryptocurrency. It should not be more than 50% of your net worth, but I know some people might have violated that, right? And this is why the volatility in the short term is very easy to get distracted on the long-term vision. And that's where you actually lose money. I'm going to show you right here, as you can see, specifically, if you broaden your time horizon, pretty much if you have bought Bitcoin at any point in history and Bitcoin's history, no matter how long it's been around, if you bought Bitcoin at any time, if you held it for 4 years, pretty much 100% in profit, no matter what. If you look at a time horizon of 4 years, pretty much no one has ever lost money. Long term, it pretty much plays out. The thesis of Bitcoin in general is always going to be bullish. This is why I'm a perma bull, but at the same time, I'm a realistic perma bull. I'm trying to make more money. I'm trying to stack sats. You can't just hold through everything if you could appreciate, Satoshis, right? That's the point. Okay, Bitcoin is going to be 100K at one point. A lot of people believe that. I personally believe in myself. So right now, Bitcoin is currently sitting at around anywhere from $32,000 to $35,000. If that's the case, then we have a solid 3x. Basically, just broaden your time horizon. If you believe in the thesis of crypto, it usually plays out. Compare this to anything in traditional wealth. It takes decades, right, to get these types of percentages. Even if we wait to the next halving, let's say we wait for the next 4 years to the next halving of cryptocurrency. Even in that time horizon, 300%, a 3x to 100K BTC is extremely lucrative. Don't get greedy. Instead of worrying about BTC's price and getting so emotional about it, I'm gonna give you a couple pointers so that you can educate yourself. This is what I do when I'm not worried about the volatility of the asset and I'm worried about the long-term growth. This is what I do as an investor. Okay. Number one, I invest in knowledge. Okay. I look at new projects and I try to see what is going to be on my buying list when the market starts to come back. When we start to gain more momentum, this is the type of plays I'll jump into. Number two, sometimes I generate yield, right? It's very easy to make 10 to 15% APY, which if you look at any other industry, it's pretty much never a thing, right? It's very hard to get these types of returns. It's not promised or guaranteed, but it's highly likely with DeFi applications. I also think about building cash flow. So for you, that can mean maybe a job where you work for performance, maybe asking for extra hours, maybe flipping something on eBay, making a small business to make money. Day trading is a specific skill set. People do it and people can make money. And I've had results from people making money. Day trading is a skill. People can do it, but it's a skill that takes a lot of experience. Something that doesn't take experience is as simple as selling something on eBay that you bought, you want to flip some items. These things can happen at a very quick time with no learning curve. These are really good to survive the bear market so you could buy the dip, right? And dollar cost average in. And then also just building conviction and doubling down on what you know about cryptocurrency. Do you really understand all of the little details of blockchain technology and how innovative it is. Because this right here builds up the case for you to be able to hold through volatility in the future and actually realize those gains in 4 years, as we saw on the chart. So again, like the only thing I would keep you from that is making a mistake like selling too early or not having enough, right? That's the argument that everybody has. They don't have enough Bitcoin. So definitely build more conviction through these volatile times. And you can do these things all while like there's a high likelihood that Bitcoin is going to make you money, right? You're doing all these things to build to the future when you could be staring at the chart and just feeling crazy about it. You can be building your knowledge for the future and actually generating cash flow. And this is where like emotional intelligence comes into play, and where a lot of people just get kind of like stagnant. They freeze. They don't put in the hustle. You're supposed to double down and work harder when there's a higher risk, right? I always recommend for people to do this. And then while you're doing it, your money's actually increasing over time with Bitcoin, right? And this is the type of strategy a lot of OGs, as well as myself, has adopted since being in this space. So in this video here, I'm going to help you build that conviction. I'm going to talk about a couple of theses that I've created. This is obviously all theory, but it's based on history in some cases, as well as future predictions. And I back up everything I do with as much evidence as I possibly can. Why are you watching my video? If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, smash the like button or something. So let's talk about my first reason why Bitcoin's probably going to go to 100K relatively soon. Relatively, I mean years terms, okay? Not hours, please, guys, don't be crazy. Number one, macro conditions. Macro conditions are set up to Bitcoin's success. I'm telling you right now, it's never been a better time for Bitcoin to shine. Let me explain the reasons why. There's no secret that the pandemic caused a lot of issues for pretty much every single market on planet Earth. We have massive, quarantines. We have people on lockdown. You couldn't go outside. You couldn't spend your money because of this reason. You're doing less activity. A lot of people migrated online with Zoom and Netflix and all these streaming services. Everybody went online. The economy was pretty much ruined. We all know that. We had and still have massive unemployment. One of the biggest reasons is for people just not being able to go to work because their children have to go to school from home. And this is a consistent threat. Also, we have, if you guys didn't notice, massive inflation. If you look at the consumer price index, is all the talk of the town pretty much in the last 2 weeks.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. We have breaking news, our April read on Consumer Price Index. And believe me, if you're standing, I recommend you sit down. Up 0.8% on headline, 4 times expectations. Strip out the all-important food and energy, up 3 times expectations, up 0.9%. Year over year, up 4.2%. And if you look at year over year core, up 3.0. These are staggering numbers. However, they shouldn't be a surprise. Especially, let's take those year over year numbers. When you look at last April, it was up 0.3 year over year headline. So we are comping against some of the worst corona-affected year over year inflation data points. So for the next couple months, these year over year numbers are going to be rather large. How large? Yeah, I heard you ask. Up 4.2% would be the biggest month over month increase on headline year over year since September, get this, 2008. These are really, really lofty numbers. Now, as we look at what's going on in interest rates, we're almost at 164 on a 10, 235 on 30s. And do remember, yesterday...
Massive inflation, which dilutes the purchasing power of the United States dollar, pretty much taking money from your bank without you even knowing, right? If you have money sitting there not invested, you're pretty much losing money, and it's increasing. The inflation's pretty bad. Piggybacking off of what I just said, the cost of goods increased, reducing consumer spending. So things have been really hectic in the economy. Not to mention, the United States actually experienced 2 consecutive quarterly declines of the GDP. It even recorded the steepest quarterly drop in economic output on record since they started recording this type of data. A decrease of 9.1% in the second quarter of 2020. And actually, it's getting worse in 2021. So to put this into historical context, the quarterly GDP has never experienced a drop greater than 3%. So just understand how significant this is. And if you guys don't know what the GDP means, it's basically gross domestic product, meaning the economic output of our country in general. So the economy is pretty much set for something to come and save it. And this is why Bitcoin was created. It's no secret that Bitcoin's success is actually tied to the destruction of the world currency reserve, which happens to be USD, right? United States dollar. It was actually created for this exact reason. And it's, in my opinion, played its role at least up into the pandemic. Let me show you. So if we come over to the screen share here, there's two charts I want to compare, and you'll catch my drift. You'll get what I'm putting down. So right here is the top of Bitcoin's price is the BLX. It's basically the biggest historical data set of Bitcoin on TradingView. I use it a lot. I use it a lot in my TA. You guys have seen it before. And then on the right side, we have the United States Dollar Currency Index, which is a representation of the purchasing power of the dollar. When it goes down, it's pretty much them usually printing and fiscal policy or anything else that has to do with the destruction of the United States dollar. Where it could be people fleeting the dollar and not wanting to hold the dollar as well, right? So it's usually though some type of devaluation of the currency, right? Which the reason why we're talking about USD is because it is the world reserve currency, if that makes sense. But looking at it from here, you could see that it's hold true to what it was. Bitcoin has been a hedge against the United States dollar. Let me explain. Ever since over here, I always remember this day, March 20th, 2020. Here around this time frame, we have a massive dip, and this massive dip was fueled by the coronavirus pandemic, basically, right? 60% decline in Bitcoin's price. If we look around the same time period, you see kind of this like weird volatility right here. We see this massive decline as well, right? Which is around the same time frame. Pretty much every market bled out. Now, up until that point, it really scared the economy. The policymakers and everything were very defensive because it kind of showed the cracks of economic output and how easy it is to, come down. Like the house of cards are going to come down eventually. Ever since that point, we've seen a steady decline in USD. Look at it for yourself. Up until that point, it just continued to fall. And 12% might not sound like a lot, but you have to understand the amount of money. This is an index. The amount of money that's involved, hundreds of times greater magnitude than Bitcoin's price. But this recent dip was obviously part of manipulation for some of the whales to accumulate more BTC because the economic conditions are showing otherwise. Pretty much everything's showing otherwise. The manipulation is painting a picture that is not the true BTC that we've already thought of. And there's like a common understanding of Bitcoin if you've done any type of research, and the information that's going out, it's FUD, it's manipulation, it's random news events that we've already heard of 6 times, right? With China, we've heard of China more than 10 times, more than 15 times. We've heard of the energy argument a lot of times as well. It always happens and it comes in cycles. And the only people it's tricking is new people. And it looks like the whales are manipulating because as you can see right here, Bitcoin's performing well in the same period of time. Since that exact time, Bitcoin has only appreciated. So it showed clearly that is a hedge. It's better to hold Bitcoin than the United States dollar. Look, United States dollar is dropping 12%. Bitcoin's appreciating by large percentages, thousands of percentages in the same time period. So it's definitely shown as a hedge against monetary inflation in the United States dollar. So to just bring it all home for the first thesis, as the economy continues to get worse and the house of cards keeps coming down with the uncertainties of the housing market as well as unemployment and inflation, these variables are going to have very catastrophic effects on the economy, which obviously Bitcoin tends to rise. This is manipulation right here. This recent dip is clear manipulation. Everybody agrees with me on that point. And then from here, it's just going to be what we've seen here. Exactly what we saw here will happen. Again, this is going to continue to fall. It made a lower high, which is very, very bad. It was supposed to break this. It made a lower high 1, 2, 3, 4 times in a row. This is very negative news for United States dollar when it comes to purchasing power. I think it's going to continue down and Bitcoin's going to rise in comparison. All right, so let's talk about thesis number 2, the super snowball effect of adoption. Okay, I've seen it before. I've seen it play out all the time, and we're just seeing other narratives happen right before our eyes. Okay, but first, before we go into that, how does snowballs actually work with BTC? What does this mean, snowball effect? Just literally think of, the snowball animation that you've seen in every cartoon. It's rolling down a mountain and it's gaining momentum and it's getting bigger at the same time. It's pulling up the snow as it goes along. I've always said in my videos, if you don't get with it, you will get left behind. And it's because these businesses pretty much have to do that. They have to adopt the technology because of how valuable the technology is. Remember, if BTC is actually a superior form of money, which we all know from the properties of Bitcoin, that they're way better than cash and way better than gold. So if it's actually a superior form of money, all it takes is some knowledge for other people to start adopting it, right? And build that momentum. The more knowledge that is spread across the earth, the more people adopt the currency by default because it's a better form of currency. Why are you going to pick something inferior, right? As long as you get enough information and knowledge, it becomes an easy decision. Now, the knowledge I'm talking about is not from you and me. Our form of knowledge is way inferior when it comes to wealthy people. These wealthy people, they look for hundreds of confirmations. They don't typically jump into something unless they've seen it before, right? They're not going to just jump off a news article that they see, on Google, right? So the wealthiest people are getting this knowledge in a very unique way, which is kind of called like a case study or a study through the example of another company. For example, if you see PayPal news saying they're going to accept Bitcoin, to me and you, that's like, oh, great. It's going to pump my bags. Great news. We're going to see Bitcoin's price pump. More people are using the platform. It's great. But to companies that are in the same competition bracket, they look at it as, oh no, that company is going to make more money. Let's see exactly how it works for them. And if it's really good, well, we're going to adopt it too. So basically, if PayPal starts excelling and getting transaction fees and developing a whole new resource for its app, right, through the appreciation of the reserve. Because remember, they have to hold this BTC in the reserve. So if it appreciates in value, they actually make money, right? And as well as the transaction fees of people actually trading on PayPal, those two things can cause another company's competition because they are fighting for the same market share. It can cause the competitor to come right in and try to do the same exact thing just to compete. It's a get with it or get left behind situation. They have to compete or they get, they lose. They lose the game and they lose money. So there's a couple areas that we've already seen this play out before. And it's like a FOMO thing with the businesses. It's kind of crazy. So the first one was the merchants processing cryptocurrencies, like we just talked about. Cash App was the first of its kind. It was actually way ahead of everybody else. That was the first case study. It started really accepting Bitcoin a while ago, I remember. And the fees that they generated and the user interest that they got on Cash App was enough for PayPal. They had literally had no choice. They had to accept cryptocurrencies themselves, and they did. Okay. And then from there, it ultimately came to Apple. And those are the big three. And I think there's going to be a lot more in the future because these are very respected companies. And there's so many more companies that do this or merchants that do this. And they provide it as a product. So there's other areas as well. So the second one is publicly traded companies putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. So if we have Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy doing this massive thing, kind of leading the charge, right? These guys are the biggest people. And let me kind of show you a physical representation of how small that is. As you can see right here, this is the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. And then this is countries. And then we have the Tezos Foundation and public companies. But as you can see, look how small private companies is. Think about this though. Think about this. This is literally a public, if any other public companies come out and start adopting Bitcoin and putting it on its balance sheet, it's going to cause this ripple effect or this snowball effect to get other companies in. And look how small it is in comparison to other reserves, right? You can see how small it is and how much more room it has to grow. So we saw the merchant side play out with users. Now we could potentially see a lot of public companies coming out as an open case study to Michael Saylor. So if he's dollar cost averaging right now and everybody's watching this before he keeps buying the dip. And if that ever plays out in a slightly positive way, he's already positive. He's already made a lot of money and has wowed a lot of people. If it continues to go that way, then we can potentially see, a huge, snowball effect of other public companies. And then the last snowball effect that's probably going to blow up Bitcoin is the fact that now countries are adopting it as legal tender, and it's very serious. It's more serious than you think. You could clearly see in this video the conviction in the El Salvadorian president's voice when he says he wants to be like a forward thinker when adopting Bitcoin. You can see countries, like complete other countries following and people adopting Bitcoin after El Salvador already happening. And then you can clearly see he's explaining the snowball effect of countries adopting Bitcoin. And then the kind of final, just to put the cherry on top, I want to show you guys this actual adoption curve in comparison to every other adoption curve ever made with public companies. You can see by Raoul Paul right here, we're enjoying all volatility. Without the volatility, if you focus on other things, you can see that they're comparing to the global internet users right here from 1992 to 2006 in comparison to crypto users. We're having actually way more growth and it's being adopted faster than the internet. Cryptocurrency is being adopted faster than the internet. I just want to conclude this video. We went over a couple of theses. There's obviously more. I can make a large one for Ethereum and layer 2 technology, as well as the innovations and stuff like that with altcoins. I wanted to make this about Bitcoin. If you guys want me to make more theories about, the altcoin market or Ethereum, leave a comment below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, share this with somebody, and of course, like the video. That's like given. If you're not liking my videos, I honestly don't know what you're doing. So just to wrap it up, Bitcoin in the long term is going to be great. It's going to be fine. I know a lot of people are stressing, but there's no need to stress. The worst thing you could do right now is stop researching. If you quit now, this is the time you lose. It's literally given to the people that last the longest in every industry on planet Earth. I don't care what business you're in, the people that usually win are the ones that last and stick it out. It's a marathon, not a race. And you really need to think of it that way. So if you lack conviction, there's a couple of theses you could think about, right? The snowball effects we talked about that are happening currently right now, as well as the current macro conditions that are pretty much built for Bitcoin. The opposite way. Bitcoin was built for these macro conditions. And like Michael Saylor said, and a lot of other people, I much rather hold Bitcoin rather than USD. That's a given. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. If you appreciate the content, subscribe to the channel. Or no, that's it. What did I say again? I don't even remember what I say. But that's it for this video, guys. If you like the quality of this content, hit like. If you don't, leave some constructive criticism. Subscribe for more video updates. And like I always say, if you don't get with it, you will get left behind. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Catch you in the next one.